Well, welcome back everybody to Hot Rod Guy Garage, and I see I got a little grease dot on my nose. There's a trick for that. But I come home today from the shop. I've been working on the Grand National, trying to get that rust issue addressed. So this is not going to be another how to make your Geo Metro faster video. This is another just Project Free Throw video. So I'm down here in the garage. I've been working on tearing this thing down a little while, and I figured I would show y'all the junk that this thing's really built out of. So, it's not unlike your stock Metro in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, it's not. So, I'm going to do a little video of me tearing this motor down. Now, I've done got the TBI off of it and the intake off and some other stuff, but the head and turbo stuff's still on it. So, this is going to be a teardown video, so watch along with me. So I come straight home and I start tearing this thing down. As you can see, everything's just kind of, stuck everywhere. Up here and down there and over there and left and right. But stock camshaft, this thing does not have an aftermarket camshaft in it. That is the camshaft that the motor comes with. So I'm going to start tearing this thing down, guys. I got to take this turbo kit off. I've already got the oil lines and stuff off. Then we'll pull this cylinder head off and see what we find under it. So I'll just pull the plugs out of it, which you just seen. That's cylinder 1, cylinder 3, cylinder 2. Cylinder 2 is where our problem's at. So probably not walked cylinder liners in it yet. That's really what I thought it was going to be, but usually if I start walking cylinder liners, it'll blow the head gasket the center of cylinder 1 and cylinder 3. And when I say center of the head gasket, I mean towards the center of the block itself. That's the point where it can't mix water and coolant. So I guess we'll rip this head off here and see what we got. So we're ready to bust some head bolts out, I guess. Wow. Usually when you got a blown head gasket, the head comes out pretty easy. As you can see, I was about to rip the car off the ground. So let's break out our new friend. Well, this is quite interesting. I'll flip the camera around and show you. So stay tuned. Alright guys. Now this right here is not blown head gasket. So what you want to do, you look around, make sure the firing rings are deformed. Well, if you look right here, you see this little black spot? This right here is where our head gasket blew. It blew in the water because this gasket had already eroded right here. And we also had a little burnt spot there and one right there. That right there is why we were getting coolant into the combustion chambers. As you can see, we got a little swimming pool going on. And all of them have some amount of water in them. So let's see what we got on our cylinder head here. Here's our little water passage right there, and that's right there on the intake side, this right here is where our head gasket blew, is it right in this area. And you can see right here, these little micro places. That was where it blew over here. So, looks like we don't have no burnt valves or anything, so that's always good. And considering this head was just done not too long ago, but remember we put 500 eighth mile passes, you still got a little carbon stuff going on up here, which is kind of unusual to have with the 85. So, I guess my next thing is I'm going to get all this water dried out, get this old head gasket off, and try to assess the cylinder bores. And if anybody was curious what I was using, it's just a little Mighty Vac fluid extractor. This is the small size. It works good for sucking the coolant out of your head bolt holes, and you know, I went ahead and sucked it all out of the block here. Because when I clean this up, I want to make sure everything's good and clean again. And I think, guys, I'm probably going to go ahead and pull the pistons out of it. And may just go ahead and re-ring it just for giggles. But since our head gasket didn't blow because the cylinder liner's walking, I'm probably going to maybe put some good head bolts in it, put another gasket on it, fresh set of rings, hone it, and we'll be back ripping hopefully by the weekend, hopefully. But every bit of that is going to depend on what the pistons look like when I pull them out. I think at this point, considering this thing's got 550 plus eighth mile passes and over 500 and something quarter mile passes on it at this point, that since I've got the head off of it again, it would be foolish not to go ahead and put a set of rings in it. And I may go ahead and run this head back and have it checked, just for giggles. Because we do run this thing hard quite often, a lot of RPM. Sometimes it's better to be safe than sorry. You know, just let him do a little skim cut on it and see where we end up at. So, let's get these pistons out of this thing. Well, I finally got the oil pan off. So, as you can see, we got stock rods, and this thing ain't never been apart, other than me resealing the oil pan on it. And you can also see we got some nasty looking oil down there. We also got it down here. Let's get these pistons out. So far, don't want nothing catastrophic. Like I said before, I'm going to pull these pistons out, have a look at the rings, and see what I need to order to fix this thing. So, we'll go from there. Well, guys, it's a little while later, and I've got all three pistons pulled out. I'll have to say this, I'm very surprised of how everything looks. The rod bearings look good. You can see where it may have had a little trash pass through an oil passage at one time or another. But other than that, there's nothing really that needs to be replaced. The rings actually still look good, and so do the piston skirts. I'll show you that stuff here in a minute, but really surprised the piston skirts have absolutely no scuffing on them. Now, keep in mind, I don't know anything about the bottom end of this motor. I resealed the oil pan when I got it, you know, because we had an oil leak. We done head work, you know, and we just been beating the snot out of it ever since. So most motors that are treated like this, especially at this point with the as many passes that I have put on this car that have been actually recorded. Now keep in mind, just about every time I drive this car, it gets drove pretty much like it does when you see me drive it in the videos. So this thing's got some mega hard, very hard miles on it. So it would be normal to see some scuffing on the cylinder walls, or you know, some bad spots on the rings or anything like that. So I don't know, guys. I mean, the air fuel on it yesterday was at 11.4 on the 85. There'd be a little on rich side on the, on the gas scale. Not really lean on the E85 side. As you can see, there was still some carbon buildup in the chamber. So no detonation on no plugs, no detonation on piston tops. The rings don't show no signs of a detonation, which it shouldn't be, because this isn't the first car I've tuned. It's not the first Geo3 cylinder I've ever tuned. This car is still on a very safe tune. So it could be a freak accident that it blew the head gasket. It could be because the center intake runner is shorter than cylinder 1 and 3. I really thought yesterday that we had walked the cylinders, because usually that's what happens. Now, I've had it happen before, but could it just be a bad head gasket? Could the head bolts be a little weak? Maybe it tried to lift the head. I don't know. So I'm going to flip the camera around. I'm going to show you these pistons and stuff. Just that way you know. I have nothing to hide with this car. It's nothing special, guys. Any one of you could build a car just like this and go just as fast if you put a little dedication in it. So the good thing is the repair is going to be cheap. Just a little work, a little time. At least I got it in the garage in here at the house, where it's about 67 degrees down here. So it's actually kind of nice to kind of just chill out here after working all day in the heat at the shop. So at this point, I'm going to flip the camera around. I'll show you these pistons and stuff, and then I'll be back. Alright, guys. As you can see, I got the pistons out. I laid them in the cylinder order that I took them out, because that's how I'm going to put them back in. Anytime you take the rods and pistons out of a car, especially if you're going to reuse the bearings in it, it needs to go back in on that same cylinder, or you could have bearing problems. But this is cylinder 1. You know, just old stock piston, guys. That skirt right there is the only spot on any piston skirt that I've seen. So, no bent rods. That's always been a thing. Everybody talks about the rods are weak in these motors. 9,000 RPM, guys. Boost and nitrous. That's just a little dirt. But, other than some little micro scratches, there's not really no scuffing on this thing. And the bearings look pretty fair too. Keep in mind this motor's got over, I know it's got over 100,000 miles on it. So how many exactly, I don't know. But everything looks pretty okay. Once again, no bent rod and no aftermarket rod. This was the worst looking bearing. And it kind of looks ugly, but you can't feel anything with your fingernail. So at this point, I'm probably just going to order a set of rings. I'm going to run a home through this thing lightly and put the bottom end back together. So you can tell that motor has never been out of this car. See how clean the transmission is compared. So basically, it's just kind of real good news, especially to me. So at this point, I'm probably going to go upstairs, order me a set of rings, and I'll file fit them and set some ring gaps and, just make sure all that stuff's great. But pretty much, guys, I just kind of wanted to let you know that it was what it was, and we need to see what failed. Because once we know what failed and how it failed, we know how to fix it. So at this point, I'm probably going to put a good set of head bolts in it. Now, these share the same head bolt as like a KA24 Nissan motor, so you can use an ARP head bolt. Probably going to put a set in this one this time, and I'm probably going to put a good quality head gasket in it instead of the cheap head gasket we had in it before. I just used an evergreen gasket. I've got another cheap gasket over here in the gasket set, and I could very well put it on. But I don't know, guys. I'm going to order a couple parts, and maybe we can have this thing back together by the weekend. So until then, guys, I'll see you at the next one. Thanks for watching.